Good afternoon, and welcome back to the continuation of our quarterly SILC meeting. I'd like to start by asking Wendy to take a roll.
Okay, this is Wendy Thornley for the record. The roll call is Havander Davis.
Here.
Vicky Essner. Mary Evilsizer.
Present.
Dee Dee Formaster. Jennifer Kane. Sabra McWhirter.
Sorry, I'm here. I just joined, so if we're having to say here or present, I am. And this is Jennifer Kane.
Thank you, Jennifer. Raquel O'Neill. Obioma Officer. Kate Osti. Cheyenne Pasquale.
Cheyenne said she will be in late.
All right, thank you. Renee Portnell. Ace Patrick. I see the notice. I see your notice, Obioma, letting us know you are here.
This is Ace Patrick, present.
Thank you so much. Linda Voivoda.
Here.
Julie Weissman Steinbach.
Present.
And Peter Whittingham.
I'm here.
Thank you. And yes, we have quorum.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
It's John here.
I don't see him here yet. Perhaps we can come back to him when he arrives.
Yeah, when he arrives, we'll go back to Peter's question.
Thanks, Julie.
Is Megan here?
Hi. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go back to item number 5. And Megan Wickland is the health program manager of HCBS, and she's going to be speaking to us today. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. My name is Megan Wickland. I'm with the Aging and Disability Services Division. I am the Developmental Services Quality Assurance Manager, and I am also our waiver coordinator for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I do have a PowerPoint to share with you, so if I may share my screen, I will attempt to do that here. Give me just a second. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, so I will be, let's see if I can advance this. There we go. I'm going to provide just a brief introduction to home and community-based services waivers, then talk about our waiver here in Nevada for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities that we refer to as IDD, and then talk about some services that we are considering as part of our waiver renewal that is coming up. So introduction to waivers. The home and community-based services waivers began actually back in 1981 to correct what was referred to as institutional bias by Medicaid regarding funding. The bias was that Medicaid thought that people couldn't be served in the community, that they could only receive supports in an institution. And so Section 1915C of the Social Security Act was changed to allow states to request a waiver to fund services for people in the community to receive services and support so they could get out of an institution. So a home and community-based services waivers are intended to give states flexibility to serve populations, new populations, and to provide services in innovative and creative ways. So states can specify the target population and the services that they can make available through that waiver. However, these services are intended to supplement Medicaid state plan services, so they cannot be the same as, that would be considered double dipping. And so the services have to be different and supplement whatever Medicaid state plan has in place. They also cannot, waiver services cannot pay for services provided by vocational rehabilitation or through schools that would be covered under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And they also cannot pay for services to individuals residing in an institution. So that would include a nursing home, jail, or an intermediate care facility. In addition, the annual total cost of the waiver program cannot exceed the total cost of institutional costs for people on the waiver. Then we also have our Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, came out with specific settings requirements called the final rule for all of their home and community-based services waivers. It was published initially in January 2014. It became effective March 17 in 2014. However, it wasn't until this year, March 2023, that states are required to be in compliance with the settings rules. The intent of the settings requirement or final rule is to ensure that individuals receiving long-term services and supports that are under a waiver have full access to the benefits of the community and opportunities to live in the most integrated setting. It is designed to enhance a person's choice and quality of life, as well as provide protections to the person, and it does require a more robust, person-centered planning process. The setting itself has to be selected by the individual based off of multiple options and choices for the person. It has to ensure that the person's rights are in place, that they have a right to privacy, a right to dignity and respect, and freedom from coercion and restraint. It also must optimize individual initiative, autonomy, and independence in making choices that they would like, that's meaningful to them in their life. It facilitates choice regarding services and supports, what they want and who they would like to have provide those services. It ensures that the individual receiving services in the community to the same degree as a person who is not receiving a home and community-based service. It also needs to provide opportunities for people to seek employment and work in competitive integrated settings, be able to engage in the life of their community, whatever's going on, and to also be able to control their own personal resources. The settings options need to be identified and really spelled out in the person-centered service plan. And it needs to reflect that it's based on the person's needs, their preferences, and their desires, and also include resources available for room and board. So person-centered planning, that final rule was codified in 42 CFR. And it says that the person has to lead their plan as much as possible to the extent that they are able to do so. The planning team should include whoever the individual wants to attend, and provides information and support to ensure that the person really directs that process and that they're driving it. And that the person is also able to make informed choices and decisions. And the planning needs to occur timely and be held at times and locations that are convenient to the individual, not just to other people on the team. Person-centered planning also needs to reflect the cultural considerations of the person. It needs to be conducted in plain language and in a manner that is accessible to the person, including those who have limited English proficiency. It should include strategies for conflict resolution when there's disagreements in the process, and providers of home and community-based services. Those would be our providers that we contract with to provide the service, cannot also provide case management services because that's considered a conflict. Person-centered planning also should offer informed choices to the individual regarding the services and supports that they receive. Include a method for the individual to request updates to the plan as needed, and should also record alternative settings that were considered by the individual. So our Nevada waiver for individuals with intellectual disabilities is what I'm going to talk about now, our current services. So our waiver for this population began actually in 1982. Our current waiver started back in October 2018 and is expiring this year on September 30th, 2023. So we are in the process of renewing our waiver now. The number of individuals currently enrolled as of February is 2,564, and developmental services currently serves around 7,500 individuals across the lifespan. So that's about 1/3 of our total individuals served are on the waiver. So to be eligible for our waiver, the person has to be eligible for developmental services. They also have to be eligible for Medicaid, and they have to meet what we call an institutional level of care for an intermediate care facility for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so that includes a substantial functional impairment in 3 or more of the 6 areas of major life activity. So that includes mobility, self-care, understanding, use of language and understanding of language, learning, self-direction, and capacity for independent learning. The onset of the functional deficits have to occur before the age of 22. Also, there has to be a requirement for at least monthly supports under the supervision of a healthcare professional or trained support professional. And meaning also that the person cannot be maintained in a less restrictive environment without the supports and services provided. So if they didn't receive the waiver services, in other words, they would be at for being institutionalized without the support. So that's what that means. So here in Nevada, we have currently 11 unbundled services. So it means you can use them individually. The first 4, so we have day habilitation, pre-vocational, and supported employment and career planning, falls under the umbrella of our jobs and day training services. And then residential support services and residential support management fall under our supported living arrangement services. So I'm going to go through and explain what each of those services are that are listed below. So our first jobs and day training service is what we call day habilitation. These are regularly scheduled activities that are in a non-residential setting. And they're geared toward helping a person to acquire, retain, maintain, or improve skills and self-help, socialization, or adaptive skills. The services are focused on enabling the person to attain or maintain their maximum potential, and these services are not vocational in nature. Then we have our pre-vocational services, and this service does allow for people to learn and gain work experience where they can develop and learn specific tasks related to having a job, with the intent that it leads to integrated employment within the community. This could also include volunteer work. Individuals receiving pre-vocational services can be received or can be paid at what we call a special minimum wage or sub-minimum wage by a provider that has a specialized certificate in order to do so from the Department of Labor to pay that. But again, the service is intended to help people learn skills that will lead to employment for them, and where they could be paid at least minimum wage in an integrated setting. Then we have our supported employment service, and this is our individual supported employment, where it provides that one-to-one intensive support to a person to help them obtain and maintain a job through doing some job development or job coaching in a competitive community work setting where they are making at least minimum wage or more. Customized employment is one way that the service is delivered, where it focuses on the strengths of the person and works with potential employers to customize or carve out a job for them based on the person's skill sets and preferences. And the outcome for this is that a person sustains employment being paid at or above minimum wage in an integrated community setting. Then we also have small group supported employment services. And this is where anywhere from 2 up to 8 individuals are supported to work in a regular business in the community or industry with the intent that they are integrated in the workplace. And this too is to help support them to be have sustained employment where they are paid at or above minimum wage in the community. And then our last jobs and day training service is career planning. And this service is time limited. And it's really designed to help people to explore what they would like to do. Maybe do some job shadowing, assessment of interest. It can include some benefits counseling. So it's a comprehensive employment planning and support service that really helps figure out what it is a person would like to do. So those supports and services can be in place for the person to move forward and hopefully be employed in the community. Then our supported living arrangement services, we have residential support services. And these are direct services and protective oversight services that are provided to a person to assist them to also acquire, improve, retain, or maintain skills necessary to be able to live as independently as possible within the community. The services are provided on a continuum. So from intermittent all the way up to a person receiving 24-hour supported living arrangement. So somebody could be living at home with their family or living on their own in an apartment or with a roommate, and intermittent supports come in maybe 25 hours a week based on the person's needs to help them with whatever skills that they need support with. If it's doing some grocery shopping, meal planning, cooking, doing laundry, whatever it is they need to perhaps maintain their home or access the community, those types of things, all the way up to what we call a 24-hour supported living arrangement service, where up to 4 people reside together in a home. They each have their own bedroom, and there is shift staff that are always present when the individuals are home. And staff in a 24-hour home can either be awake at night or they can be asleep, depending on the needs of the individuals living in the home. And then also part of our supported living arrangement service is we have a residential support management service. And this is what we expect a service for the provider that we contract with to ensure the health and welfare of the individuals that they support. And so various tasks, they're responsible for assisting with the development of goals or developing habilitation plans, applying for and obtaining community resources and benefits. They do some problem solving and crisis management. They can support with budgeting, bill paying, keeping appointments, getting them to doctor's appointments, and then training residential support staff to provide the services based off of the habilitation plans and the person-centered plan. Then we have our non-medical transportation. And this is a service that enables individuals to gain access to the community so they can attend social events, maybe go to church, do the banking, grocery shopping, those types of things. And there is a maximum of $100 per month on this service. And then we have behavioral consultation, training, and intervention services. And so this allows for either a licensed psychologist or a board certified behavior analyst to come in and do a functional behavioral assessment, develop a behavior support plan, train staff on whatever supports are needed to help the individual based on their need. And this too also has a limit of $5,200 per year. Then we have counseling services. And so this is a service that provides any type of assessment or evaluation, therapeutic interventions to support the person and or their family or caregivers. And this would not be covered by Medicaid state plans. So this would be in addition to that to support the person. It could be done individually or in a group setting. And there's a limit of $1,500 per year for this service. Then we also have nursing services, and we've got 3 different levels of that within our waiver. So there's a medical management component that can be done by a nurse or licensed practical nurse. So that would be where they would develop health services, support plans, provide observation, assessment, training of staff, monitoring, assessment, and referrals to medical providers. Then we also have nursing assessments that can be conducted as part of this service, and that has to be done by a registered nurse. And that's basically an assessment of the person's health, their preferences, abilities, and will include recommendations for any type of medical or mental health care that's needed. We can also provide direct services through either a nurse or licensed practical nurse. So this would be routine medical and healthcare that's provided to support the individuals, such as skilled nursing services that could include administering medication, wound care, tube feedings, those types of things. And these services can be delivered in the individual's home, in whatever day program they may be attending or other community settings. We also have nutritional counseling services. This has to be performed by a registered dietitian that would assess a person's nutritional needs, develop a nutritional plan, provide training and education to the person and staff. This service does not include the cost of food or meals, but it also does have a limit of $1,300 per year. So for our waiver renewal, some services that we are considering to include. So we had, during the public health emergency, we had what we call an Appendix K to our waiver. And that allowed flexibilities for how services were delivered and provided. And as the public health emergency is ending, and we are now in our wind down phase of that, which I think comes to an end in October. And so some of the services that we had, or the flexibilities that we allowed within our waiver, in our Appendix K, allowed for legally responsible individuals to be paid support. And so we are looking to continue that. Also looking to continue having electronic signatures on the person-centered plan. Maintain some level of virtual person-centered planning meetings on a case-by-case basis for perhaps individuals who may be sick, or just to try and stay within those timelines to support the person. It wouldn't be the default, but it would certainly allow some flexibility as needed. And then we had increased our non-medical transportation rate from 100 to 150. And so we're looking to just maintain that. What we also would like to do within our new waiver is we would like to remove caps from behavioral consultation, training, and intervention, from counseling services and our nutritional counseling. So we wouldn't have limits to that anymore. And then we would like to add a new service category called goods and services. And within that, we would include environmental adaptations. And so that could be, that's intended to directly benefit the waiver recipient. So this could include perhaps ramps or handrails or grab bars or outside railings or things specific to support the person to maintain their independence in the home. And then also include assistive technology, which could include things like computer software, any type of communication device, remote monitoring, those types of things. And then also include bed bug extermination, because that does come up from time to time for individuals that we support, and it can be rather costly. And so this would allow for that to be included as well.
Looks like Megan froze. Give it a second. I don't know if you can hear me, Megan, but maybe if you stop sharing at this point, it might help the bandwidth. And we lost her. She'll come back, I'm sure.
Peter, I see her hand.
He probably has a question for Megan, but I don't know if her presentation is done or if we might want to just wait just a minute for her to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait for her to come back. Hello,
Okay.
Megan.
I just wanted to make sure. Technology is great until it's not. Do you have a way to contact her? Or why?
Dawn, would you like me to check my emails for contact information for her?
Yes, please. I'm trying to post the PowerPoint into the chat for Max.
Okay, thank you very much. I will mute and get hold of Megan.
Just as a side note, while we're waiting in silence, John did message me and let me know that the assistive technology commission meeting is still happening and he'll be coming to Silk as soon as that's over.
Should we like Honey go and like connect? What do you think?
I hate to break our train of thought, but if we have to wait too much longer, let's see what Wendy says if she can get a response from her.
Okay.
Megan's computer this is Wendy Thornley for the record. Megan's computer is getting back up and running. It had shut down, so she will be rejoining us in just a moment or two.
Okay, great.
Again, while we're waiting, Wendy, can you confirm that, I know we got that PowerPoint from Megan a little bit late. Were you able to get that posted as a material on our website yet?
I will look at the website right now. This is Wendy Thornley. Let me check on that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
If it's not, it will be there after the meeting.
Yes, it will.
Just so everybody knows, if it's not there yet, it will be after the meeting. It's just that sometimes we don't get them to the last minute.
Okay.
Yes, Megan's material, this is Wendy Thornley. Her material is called the IDD Waiver Renewal 2023, and it is currently on the website. It is the second from the bottom item.
Thank you, Wendy.
You are very welcome.
I'd also like to thank Jennifer Kane for sending Megan the Zoom link. As we often know, Teams tries to take over. And so she was trying to join a team meeting. So she is coming. Thanks, Jennifer. If I know technology, she probably clicked the Zoom link and now it's doing updates before it'll let her start. So it's just going to be a couple more minutes, I think. Here she comes.
Yes. Welcome back.
I am so sorry.
No,
I don't know what happened. It just like shut down. So, yeah, forgive me. I don't, yeah. I can share my screen again and pick up where I left off.
yes, please.
Okay. Thank you. All right, hold on just a second here. Oh my goodness, I tell you,
Technology.
technology is great when it works. Okay, hold on. Where is my? Oh, I need it over here. Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on. Just a sec. Okay, now let me see if I can share my screen. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. So I did cover the new services for consideration, and so fortunately, I was almost at the end here. So next steps then, as part of our renewal process, is there will be public workshops scheduled by the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy. That is our state Medicaid agency. And then our waiver renewal is due 90 days before it expires on September 30th. So we have to get it in by the end of June. Okay, so any questions for me?
Peter, do you still have a question?
Megan?
Yes,
Would you mind stop sharing your screen? We can. see
yes,
everybody
yes,
if they raise their hand.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Megan,
Yes.
this is Maximilian Loam. I have
Hey.
a question. I have a question about sorry.
Excuse me. Usually with all the council members to ask questions.
So, Julie, did you call on Peter first because he had his hand up?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, and then it's Max, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And thanks, Julie. I had lowered my hand initially, Megan, because some of the questions were answered. I need a copy of your PowerPoint and your contact information. I have a couple questions in many areas that you have covered. So
Okay.
I, in the interest of time, I will simply call you offline and
Okay,
go through the PowerPoint and address the questions that I have there.
sure, no
Okay.
problem.
This
Thanks.
is Dawn Lyons. Peter, would you mind copying me into that email so I can see your questions
Yeah,
and
me
share
too.
any real answers online so that for the public to hear it? Because they probably have some of the same questions.
Yeah, I was gonna request the same thing.
Okay, so then for the interest of those who are online as well, in terms of the concerns that I have, you talk about your new programs of maybe covering assistive technology. Can you explain what you would do regarding the assistive technology, how your services will address those? Would you be working with the Assistive Technology Center, or is that separate?
So we have not gotten into all the specifics yet. This is a service that we have been exploring. And so we would expect to access whatever resources there are within our community to be able to do that or refer people to. This having it within our waiver would help support any costs associated with that. So it would be for things that wouldn't be covered already by Medicaid. So if, somebody needed a particular software program or an iPad or something like that, that isn't covered by Medicaid, then this is something that our waiver could be used to access for that particular person.
And so I would suggest, Megan, give some consideration to specifically to the iPad or any kind of devices to either provide funds to extend the loan of the particular device,
Okay.
or to purchase. Those are two areas, in fact, I was going to address with John later on, but those are two areas of concern that members do have, in spite of the excellent services provided by the Assistive Technology Center. It appears to me that they're restricted in terms of the duration, the loan duration of the devices. And 30 days is insufficient for
Oh,
most of the members. So
Okay.
that is one area. Other areas I didn't hear you cover, I don't know if you do, provide advocacy and support for IEP in schools. Is that something that you do as well, or something that you could consider
Yes,
doing?
yeah, that wouldn't necessarily be a waiver service. That would be something that a person's assigned service coordinator could help support the person and the family with advocacy within the schools and attend an IEP meeting, that type of thing.
That doesn't come out of your portfolio in terms of providing that services?
No,
Okay.
because that would fall under case management for the person. So individuals that are open to one of the regional centers. So we have 3 regional centers in the state. We've got Sierra Regional Center in Washoe County, Desert Regional Center in Clark County, and then we have Rural Regional Center that covers the remaining counties.
Okay.
When a person is open to services with us, they're assigned a service coordinator, and that service coordinator then would be available to help provide any type of supports to the family for advocacy, or link them to community resources that could also provide that service.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
Next,
Yeah, I have a question. When is your public workshop on this issue? Is because I do have my advocate, because I'm a client with Desert Regional,
Okay.
and she's pretty new to this, so I would like to pass this information on to her.
Sure. So we do not have that scheduled yet, Max. We will, once we get those scheduled, and information will go out to our service recipients and to our stakeholders to be able to participate in that. And that would include sending it to this group as well.
This is Dawn Lyons. I just would like to add that I usually forward those on to this membership here. And if anyone would like to be an interested party, I can add them. Just let me know.
okay. Next, did that answer your question?
Max, did that answer your question?
I'm gonna say yes. Mary and then Linda.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Megan, for that wonderful presentation. I am, for the record, I'm the executive director of the Southern Nevada Center for Independent Living. And I wanted to say that what a wonderful expansion to include a home service such as bed bug extermination. One of the calls we get at the center frequently is individuals calling for bed bug extermination, but also for other types of home assistance, like my air conditioner stopped working, or I accidentally left the water running and my whole kitchen is flooded. And I do know what it takes to have an addition, but I don't know if there's any way to consider rewriting to say, to include to the expansion of home services such as bed bug extermination, other home emergencies, where the individual could have a leeway. In Clark County in particular, it's a challenge to find the funds or the services to take care of in-home needs that aren't funded by any type of state or federal program. That's number one. Number two, I am curious, is there currently a waiting list for the DD Council? Thank you. And thank you again for the wonderful presentation.
Sure, you're welcome. I'm not sure if we can include things like home emergencies, like what you described, where there's a busted pipe or something happens under our waiver. So I can look into that option to have to see what would be allowable by CMS. So thank you for that information. I will look into that for you. The other thing is I don't know about the DD Council if there's an opening. So I don't know if that question was intended for somebody else.
No, it was intended for you. Traditionally, there's a waiting list for waivers here in Clark County. So I didn't know if in the renewal, if you were going to get any new or additional waivers that would be helping the waiting list.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we do have a waiver wait list, and the reason surprisingly is not that we don't have waiver slots for people. It's that we don't have provider capacity. So since COVID, our providers have experienced a significant staffing shortage. And we have people who would are not able to be served because there is not a provider to serve them at this point. So it's not an issue of getting additional funding or slots for that. We just don't have provider capacity. So with that, though, we have provided rate increases to our providers as part of our budget as we are in the legislative session. And so we are hoping that with allowing for rate increases to our providers, it will support providers to be able to recruit and retain staff. And so that's what we're trying to do at this point.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the
Sure.
presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Linda,
Hi, for the record, this is Linda Voivoda. I have it's still on the same track, but a question about the Rural Regional Center. That's where we deal with here in Carson City. I was wondering, every time we have called there, they're always saying there's no slots. There's no slots. Why are they saying there's no slots? Is it because they're so short staffed, or what is going on? That's what my question is.
Okay. So, so is the person receiving a service right now?
Yes, but no. We have done as much as we could for them, and we actually helped them get into a housing program, but at the same time, it took a lot of calling around, a lot of explaining to a lot of people the logistics of what is going on with the person, because this was a person that was not only mentally handicapped, but transitioning out of school into society, and he really needed a lot of help. So the parents are still helping him, but at the same time, they're not. He's still in pretty much the same situation, but my main question is when we called up there, I don't know whether they were throwing it out as an excuse or whatever, but and probably not. They're probably short-staffed. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But this person had the police called on him twice because of aggression, and he was transitioning out of being pushed, basically. You know how some schools are, once they're done with their schooling, they push them out into society and basically say, go for it. And I think that rural regional would have been really good for him, to the fact that it would have helped him transition a lot better out into society. But right now, he's still, as far as I know, he's still in the same situation with his parents.
Okay. So I don't, without knowing all the particulars, I will say that the provider staffing shortage is statewide. So it could very well be that they simply don't have providers to staff the service that he might need. And so if Linda, if you want to email me separately, I can, with some of the information, I can try and look into it a little bit more for you, but I do know that the staffing issues are really significant. And somebody can just, I also want to clarify as well that somebody can be receiving a waiver service, but not necessarily be on the waiver. In developmental services, we can fund services through our state general fund. And so that's, just something to keep in mind as well, that person doesn't have to necessarily be on the waiver to receive a waiver service, because we provide an array of services to support individuals.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Good.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons, and thank you, Megan, for that presentation and for taking the time out today.
Yeah.
Even if you did have technical difficulties and coming back and finishing, because I really appreciate it. I actually have 3 questions now.
Sure.
I started out with 1, but my first question is, would you mind putting your email in the chat for those individuals who would like to reach out to you?
Yeah.
The second question I have is regarding what Linda was talking about. Is there a priority list or a list of people who are actually accepted as a priority because of the risk of institutionalization?
Yes, we do have a priority list for services.
Great.
Yes.
And then the other question that I originally had to begin with was, in your presentation, you were talking about the intent of the jobs and day training to eventually get people into competitive integrated employment. And I was wondering if you had any data on the success rate of that, or if you have any numbers that you could share regarding that.
Sure, I'll have to, I can see what I can pull for you, and I can share that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Sure. Yes.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
This is a subject I could spend hours talking about. So I think I'll reach out to you. Thank you again.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And my email is in the chat there, so please feel free to send me an email if you have any other questions.
Great, thank you.
All right, have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Did John come yet? I don't see him.
He is not here yet that I can see.
Okay, so let's go on to Cody. Cody, can you give your report?
Hi, Julie. Yeah, I can do that. Thank you. This is Cody Butler for the record. I'm the youth leader for the Youth Action Council. I am outside of my regular home office area, and the internet's a bit spotty, so I'm keeping my camera off to conserve bandwidth. But I'd like to start with a brief physical description of myself anyway. I'm a 28-year-old white man. I have a shaved head, bluish greenish eyes, and I'm wearing a gray polo. Not that any of that is on camera right now. But to kind of start, we're continuing to release like monthly newsletters on topics of interest to the disability community. This month is going to be a little delayed because things have been busy, but that's happening. We've got in the works some anti-bullying videos to put on social media, because anti-bullying is a really big concern for people under 18. Big thanks to Saber McWhorter for her help setting those up. Really appreciate it. Recruitment is an ongoing process. Thanks to everyone at the Rural Center for Independent Living for including me on their recreation club events. They're a ton of fun and a great opportunity to meet young people with disabilities. In the process of reaching out to the various disability resource centers in the state. Thanks to Jennifer Kane for help with those contacts. Some of them have been pretty hard to reach out to, but I think, there's progress. Attending disability related events is a big priority. I'll be personally traveling out to Minden for the Autism Resource Fair, like middle of this month, the 15th, I believe. And then I'll be traveling out to Vegas for Star Fair on the 29th. An update on the Youth Action Council Instagram. We have 56 followers as of yesterday morning. It's been growing. I think what's helped it grow is taking a bit of time each week to kind of engage with other accountants in the disability community, from other states, from just wherever, other people in the independent living world. That seems to help grow it more than the own like posts on our page. And then kind of the big takeaway is later this year, around the middle of August, most likely, I will be moving out of state. You all still see me around. I'll be involved with independent living, but I will be stepping down as youth leader. So what this means is we're looking for the next youth leader. If you know any young people with disabilities that are interested in advocacy and would like to get paid to do it, send them our way, and I'll be happy to meet them. And then lastly, I'd like to thank Ace, Julie, Dawn, and Wendy for their mentorship and support. You've all been really helpful. And that about sums up all our major updates. Thanks for listening.
Connie, we are going to be so sad to see you go. You've been incredible. Ace and then Dawn.
Thank you, Julie.
Oh, sorry about that. Hi, this is Ace Patrick. Oh, Cody, I'm really sorry to hear this. Been doing such an awesome job, and I just echo what Julie said. I also want to say that, I read your newsletter monthly, and they have been wonderful and right on point. And you have just been doing such a wonderful job, but I definitely, wish you well in whatever you will be doing in the future, because I know you're going to go far, but I'm really, really sad to hear this news. So if y'all haven't read his what he's been putting out, your pronouns are he, him, right, Cody?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Thank you, Ace.
I if you haven't been reading what Cody has been writing, I really encourage the members of the council and the members of everybody else who's here that aren't members of the council to read a lot of, go back and read the newsletters. So I'm so grateful for you, Cody, and everything that you have done thus far, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Ace. I really appreciate it.
I think we should use that fundraising money to make a clone of Cody and Dawn and then Linda.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons. Cody, I ditto what everybody has said. I echo those sentiments. I feel very strongly about how important of an influence you have been on the SILC and on the disability community youth. And so, you know, I want to say, I'm not going to say goodbye yet because we still have a few months. I'm going to say, I'm going to cherish every moment until you do leave, because I do appreciate you that much. So thank you.
Thank you, Don. That means a lot. I appreciate you all too.
Linda.
Well, Cody, I'm gonna miss my traveling buddy. I want to welcome you onto your new journey that you have going on, but also I'm going to sorely miss you too. And I know that Dee Dee will miss you from the rec clubs that she's putting on, because I know that the recruitment is just now starting to get going, and I know it's going to get better because you're the one and Marina were the one that got it started. So best of luck on your endeavors, and I hope to see you soon so I can actually say goodbye physically.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Yeah, we'll have that time to say goodbye physically. No worries.
Awesome.
Any other questions, comments?
It looks like some people put some comments in the chat. Sabra said, Cody, you're a treasured colleague. Well done, and let's continue the conversations. Oh, that's, and Jennifer Kane says, please keep in touch, Cody. We know you will do great things. So it looks like we all feel the same way, Cody. We're sad to see you go, but we know you're going to go on to bigger and better things, and we really appreciate you while you've been here and while you're still here.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I appreciate you all too. And you'll see me around.
Dee Dee, and then we're going to move on.
Hey, Cody, just want you to know that we have rec club activities happening soon. So, and I know you have that schedule, so hopefully I will see you there. So, and be able to properly congratulate you and also say goodbye. But really it's so long because we'll be seeing each other. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and I plan on being at the next couple of rec club events later this month.
well, that sounds good because I just saw 2 of your recruits who have since then been to the legislature and are all raring to go now. So Christine and I can never remember the Charmaine. They're really raring to go now and want to grow up and be advocates for people with disabilities, which is just what we're recruiting for. We want some young people to get excited about what we're doing. So I'm encouraged with what you've done so far, Cody. I appreciate anything you can give us before you head out the door.
Yeah, thank you, Dee Dee. That's excellent. I'm glad they're getting involved. That's really good to hear.
Well, you take care.
Yeah, you too.
I'll see you soon.
Okay. I see that God has joined us. Just as a heads up, I'd like to see if we could go 10 more minutes and then take a break. Is that agreeable? Is that agreeable to the council?
This is Don Lyons. I'm good with that. I think, John, it won't be more than 10 minutes or so with questions, right?
Is that question for me, John Roseland, for the record?
Yeah, I was just making sure that your presentation didn't have a whole lot more to it because Julie wants to take a break in 10 minutes. Are we good with that? Or we can always come back to you if
I
you
think we can be flexible.
Yeah, I think I was done presenting. I think there was questions is where we left off, if I recall.
Okay.
It has been 24 hours, so I may be off.
I think Peter had a question or two. So I'll call on Peter.
Peter, you're muted.
Okay, here, thanks, Julie. John, how are you?
Very good.
So just going back to your presentation yesterday, I want to let you know that the members that I represent here in Southern Nevada, Down syndrome and other intellectual developmental disability agencies and representatives are among the 96% of excellent grade that you get. Lance and his team does a fantastic job in terms of servicing the needs of our members in assistive technology. The question I had, which might have been partially answered, or hopefully will be helped by a question I asked Megan about. Megan just made a presentation. Megan from the, I think the home community based services, she just made a presentation and she indicated that one of her new ventures will be to provide assistive technology or to help in some way. And one of the questions, and so it leads to my question to you, John, is whether or not is there anything you can do to extend the loan of devices to our members. As I said, this service is excellent, no concern at all. And I also want to make sure you understand that I take into consideration the limited resources and equipment available, but is there anything that we can do to extend the loan of equipment to the members beyond the 30 days? And I'm hoping that maybe Megan might be able to help you with some funding to do that as well.
John Roseland for the record. So to clarify, Peter, there are two different programs. The program that I was reporting on, the assistive technology for independent living, is a different program than the AT Resource Center, where device demonstrations and loans take place. But I can answer your question both ways. The AT for independent living is that program that is focusing on those essential daily living barriers that an individual may have, accessing the home, so on and so forth, and actually has some state funding tied to it when no resource is obtainable to institute that modification or provide that assistive technology. Again, if it fits within the criteria that program is established with, tied to that essential daily living. I have to be able to bathe, right, to live in the community, so on and so forth. And if there's an assistive technology solution, I'll stop there. Now, when you talk to the AT Resource Center, that's an informed decision to support an informed decision by the consumer. Demonstrating the device and then loaning the device so that they can further that exploration and confirm it's going to work for them rather than buying it. Now, there is an option in there. We do have the ability to make short-term accommodations. However, the Act doesn't, it leaves that up to us to make some decision on how long that accommodation can have. And hopefully I don't get too far into the weeds with this part that I'm going to add. If we're not addressing the barrier for the person to obtain their own, then something's missing there. Providing that accommodation to somebody for a year's worth of time isn't addressing that person's barrier. And that's not really what our intent for the device loan. If we loan out all the equipment and leave it on an extended period, we no longer are able to support the demonstration and decision-making loan. So that's the barrier that we would have. Do we have the ability, if we have equipment that's not being readily used or necessary, to lend it out for more extended periods of time? Certainly, on a case-by-case basis. But if we lose those assets and those things, then we no longer have the ability to do what our main focus is in that resource center, which is to support that person in making that informed decision. Does that provide any clarity? Or is it just?
No, John, you did, and so, but it leads me to the next point, not necessarily for you, but for anybody within hearing of my voice and provide services to our members. Next step then is to see to what extent funds can be allocated where the need is proven to be so that members who cannot afford the purchase of the equipment is provided in some way that supplemental funds to purchase the equipment for them. I understand the limitation of equipment and the need to make sure that you have for demonstration, but in some cases, it's cost prohibitive for some of our members who need the equipment. And so my question would be for whoever can answer to help is where funds can be secured to the extent that they don't have the ability to purchase those assistive technology equipment.
John Rosen for the record, and that's what you're saying there is exactly what we need to focus on. What is that barrier to that equipment for that individual? And it's a large subject. If that barrier is to a piece of durable medical equipment, I'm just using it as an example, what's their barrier to obtaining that?
Yeah.
And finding that, and then finding out what that barrier is. I just got off the Assistive Technology Council, and that's really what we hope to be able to accomplish, is find out what that barrier is and then address it on one of these forums with a council and say, here's a larger issue of barriers that we exist. As a program, we may not be able to facilitate and meet that need. But how, the question would be then, how do we? We have to identify that barrier so that we can say what that is. If you're talking, it really depends on a one-on-one basis. The process of going through and identifying, is that the appropriate technology is the role of the AP Resource Center. Make sure that the person has what they're actually needing and has made an informed decision. The next step is addressing where that barrier is for them to obtain it. If they can't afford it, what are the options there? Is often where we hit that wall. If the program that presented before I was on here, I'm sorry I missed that, but I think I've been in conversation with somebody with that about them expanding assistive technology. Perhaps that's where the person may be able to obtain it. What I would hope is that we're able to support that individual to make an informed decision, and somebody else isn't making the decision on what they obtain. In other words, if somebody else is making a decision on, well, you get an iPad and that's all that you have available to you, you no longer have that informed decision to find out what best supports you as a piece of assistive technology. And so I would be glad to find out what types of assistive technologies that you're running into barriers with, and see what we can do through that. Or if it does apply to the AT for independent living, if that's something that a person would be appropriate in accessing that program.
So John, I don't want the conversation to be limited to my own personal experience, lest there be so many other families other than those that are known to me who have the need but really cannot afford to. And so you touch on the point that I think perhaps we should maybe explore, and with your position, you may be a good point person to do that. The question is, when we exhaust all the issues and found that there is a compelling need, there is a support from your team to verify that there's a need, but the duration of the loan that you can afford does not address in any sustained, meaningful way the concerns that the member may have, then how do we then go to that next level where we can justify the need for funding source to purchase the equipment? That, I think that's where we are, and we could maybe continue this conversation. But you're right. That's where we need to perhaps do some research and see where we can allocate funds, or through what agency, through yours or through Megan's agency or through any other agency where the member, you may say the consumer, could apply for funds to purchase the assistive technology equipment as needed.
John Roseland for the record. I've seen Don's hand up, but what you just said, Peter, is in line with what I was saying. Identifying that barrier at the end and addressing it through either the Independent Living Council or the Advisory Council for Assistive Technology. That's where we intend to take those barriers and say, what can we do about it? From the programmatic standpoint, me calling somebody within the agency and say, we really have a barrier there, goes nowhere. But the voices of this council and identifying larger barriers and having a united voice to address those limitations are the ways of accomplishing, to create and push organizations, agencies to increase, to obtain more budget or whatever. If we had a funding source to purchase AT through the AT resource centers and give it to people, we would certainly be able to do that. We cannot with the limitations on that funding, but it doesn't limit us to supporting that if we had resources to obtain it.
And I'd like to let Dawn chime in.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons. I could be wrong, correct me, John, if that's the case, but it sounds like there may be a disconnect with people being referred correctly to the IL AT for IL program if they qualify, if that's a barrier in their plan, right? So if they're going to NATRC or the AT program where they can sample the AT equipment for 30 days and they find that that is a need and that it does eliminate a barrier, is that something that program is doing, is taking those persons' goals and creating an independent living plan with them? Or is that something that only happens in the IL program?
John Roseland for the record, you're correct in a way. A person will have a goal in the AT Resource Center, but there's no resource in the end to obtain it. It's not there's not the resources. It's not all encompassing, right? If that was all one big program and had all those resources, certainly that's where that would live. That's where somebody would develop that independent living goal. But even the ATIL program has its limitations. As I've said, it focuses on that essential daily living barrier, right? Those things that still that individuals have, being able to get in your home, to be able to access your shower, those types of things. It hasn't expanded beyond that to say, well, recreational, for instance. I want to be able to participate on online gaming or something. It doesn't address those things, and it doesn't. So there is a barrier when you have an individual that's trying to access those things. The AT Resource Center could show them how to access that assistive technology to access the gaming, but in the end doesn't have the ability to purchase it for them. It would be able to help them explore what their options are to obtain it. But as Peter said, if the person can't afford it and there isn't an option, therefore there's a barrier there. And I'm thinking, where do we take that barrier to have it addressed?
Well, I understand the non-necessary, or I shouldn't say that because really recreation is necessary, but I can understand that only in the most as needed situations for barriers to your home living, that it would be necessary. But would there be a case where it would be approved under that circumstance? Say someone needs to apply for a job, but they don't have the technology to do that at this point?
John Rosen, for the record, yeah. But you're going into a job which your turnoff there is vocational rehabilitation, right? On a case-by-case basis, I could walk through and say, here's where I think this individual would go and land and what, or if it came to a dead end and it was in a situation where the consumer would have to be looking at that expense themselves. On a case-by-case basis, I can probably walk through and say, this is where I would see the person going. I've got enough understanding of what some of the resources are out there to figure that out. But we're talking in general terms. And that's difficult for me to say. If we're talking about something that I need to do every day, to access my shower, to be able to toilet, to brush my teeth, comb my hair, fix myself a meal, the AT for Independent Living program is your pathway to address those things. I don't make the rule on that. That's how it was created, and that's where we struggle to even serve the people we have waiting there with the dollars we have, right? So what I'm saying is, if there is a situation and a consumer isn't accessing assistive technology, and we're then asking the AT Resource Center to extend a loan for a year's worth of time, I want to know what that barrier is for the person obtaining it themselves. Let's address the barrier, because me loaning them the device takes it away from somebody that needs to make a decision potentially. That's the reality of where we're at. We don't have an endless supply of inventory of devices, but if we do have something that's not being used, that's where we are afforded the ability to lend that out for extended periods of time. I hope I'm not talking in general, but unless I know what we're shooting for and what that individual person needs to have that support, it's difficult to help figure out what that barrier might be.
And John, this is Dawn. I just want to say that's why I asked the question, because it helps provide clarification, because it is hard to wrap your head around understanding that that's how it works, right? So I wanted to make sure that I understood it and everybody else understood it as well. So I appreciate the in-depth explanation.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I absolutely? I really, we could spend an entire day talking about the pathways and some of those barriers. I'm glad you brought that up, because it takes more time to really get into depth, because every consumer, every individual has unique needs and needs supports in those ways. I can honestly say our programs don't hit it spot on. There's limitations within them. So anything we could do to figure out what those are and then try to systematically fill those voids in and try to address those barriers. But it may not start with us programmatically. It may start with agencies. It may start with the reason why the ADSC just provided a presentation about expanding that assisted technology. Thank you.
I'd like to end this topic now. It's 2:31 by my clock. Let's take a 10-minute break. And then when we come back, Raquel Anya will give her report. So we'll see everyone at 2:41. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Raquel, are you here?
I do not see her yet. I know she is on her way. She may have got caught up at something in the last minute.
Okay. Well, I think the next item is a quick one. So why do we do 15? And then we could go back to 14.
Sounds good. This is Dawn Lyons, and number 15 is update discussion and make possible recommendations regarding Executive Order 2023-003, which is Governor Lombardo's directive to all state agencies and councils and commissions to submit a report suggesting at least, sorry, I think there's someone on a phone coming into the room, might be Raquel. The executive order requires a report that suggests at least 10 suggestions for removals of Nevada Administrative Code. And so as I've attached all the documentation, and we were instructed by the governor's office at the last minute to go ahead and submit what our intention is by April 1st. So it couldn't wait until this meeting. But we did a public workshop on the 31st to garner public input on this. And it was pretty clear that we should request an exemption since we're federally regulated and we do not create state regulations or are not regulated in any way necessarily by state regulations, even though we would follow them. So it's what I'm looking for. I'll just make it short and sweet. What I'm looking for is a motion from the SILC to go ahead. I've already submitted, sorry, before I say what the motion is, I've already submitted our intention to request an exemption from this. What I'm looking for is a motion that we go ahead and actually submit that actual request for exemption.
This is
Hi,
Ace
this
Patrick.
is Raquel.
So moved. Oh,
Go ahead, Ace. Go ahead, Ace.
It's good.
Ace moved.
yeah. So this is Ace Patrick, for the record. Again, so moved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
This is
Julie,
Raquel
this-
O'Neill for the record. I'll second.
Thank you, Raquel. Is there any discussion? None. Wendy, could you do a roll call, please?
This is Wendy Thornley. I sure can. Evander Davis,
Aye.
Mary Evilsizer,
Aye.
Dee Dee Formaster,
Aye.
Jennifer Kane, we may have
Jennifer had
lost.
to leave and she's a non-voting member.
Oh, thank you. That's right. Sabra McWhirter, Raquel O'Neill,
Aye.
Kate Oste, Renee Portnell, Ace Patrick,
Aye.
Linda Voivoda,
I don't know what we're voting on because I had internet outage here.
So you
Wendy?
abstain?
I don't know what we're voting on. What are we voting on?
Linda abstained.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I do. I.
Thank you. Julie Weissman Steinbach,
Aye.
and Peter Whittingham.
Hold on a second. Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries, correct. I'm gonna say motion carries. Okay, we're gonna go back to 14 and ask Raquel to give her update.
Okay, thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. This is Raquel O'Neill for the record, and I am the current chair of the Nevada State Rehabilitation Council. And I've been asked to share a bit about council activities and give an update with the Independent Living Council on what we're doing with the Rehabilitation Council. And so what I would like to update is that we have been hearing from vocational rehabilitation about various items throughout the year. I've been encouraging them to bring forward certain topics for the council and for the public to learn about regarding vocational rehabilitation and their regulations and what is required by federal law and Nevada state statute. Recently, we heard from them that they are filling more and more vacancies, which is really important. As the chair and council recommends, we really are encouraging them to serve more Nevadans experiencing disabilities who want to go back to work. And the only way they can do that is really by having qualified counselors at the helm to provide those services. And so they are diligently working at filling their counselor positions and their other supportive staff positions. And from the last I heard, they went from about 27 vacancies to about 15 vacancies, and hopefully that'll become less in the coming months as well. The other notice that we received was about the budget, the state draft budget, and talking about how those funds would be sufficient to serve the amount of people that they currently have enrolled in services, and we're reassured that that is the case. And so they're also continuing to seek ways, as we heard yesterday from Michelle Merrill, on drawing down additional federal funding. And so as far as funding goes, they seem to be reassuring the community that all is well in that area. And so I'm hopeful of that, and we'll continue to monitor that as things get confirmed by our new governor as far as budget and funding goes. I continue to encourage the council to be active and participate with vocational rehab and providing recommendations. And that's kind of where I'm at now, is we're there to support the efforts of vocational rehab, especially with the new piece of legislation that has just been heard on Tuesday, as far as letting Nevada be the employment model, the state to be an employment model for being an employer of individuals with disabilities. And I spoke at that to encourage them to pass that piece of legislation, because I think it would really speak to and help not just in being a model employer, but setting up some kind of specific infrastructure and way that other people can follow to be a model employer in the state would really be beneficial, not just in words, but in actions, and coming up with policies and procedures to make that happen. And so I've been monitoring the various pieces of legislation as well, and trying to encourage the council to take part in being active and supporting the efforts, not just vocational rehab, but all individuals with disabilities being able to be employment seekers on an equal opportunity basis. So that's pretty much my report. Is there any questions or anything that I can take back to ask and bring forward to this council?
Yeah, this is Dawn Lyons. Thank you, Raquel, for informing everybody of the legislation that was just happened, and it's an important one. It's important to have it in statute, even if it doesn't have any teeth right now, so to speak. To be a model, the state to be a model for employment is really one step towards our employment first progress. So I'm excited about it too. And I appreciate your update. I don't have anything necessarily specific for you to take to the Rehab Council, other than I appreciate the working together with the SILC on important initiatives, and I appreciate vocational rehab's efforts lately to try and collaborate with us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all definitely stronger together, and it's time for us all to start working together and being a part of the same outcome. So I'm happy that we can model that as well as council. And I think that it starts here with us as councils too, to show them how important it is for us to work together. So thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Raquel. I agree with you completely. Any other questions? I don't see any hands. So thank you, Raquel.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we're gonna go back to item 16 and 17 are both Dawn. So take it away, Dawn.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons for the record. Number 16 is discussion and make possible recommendations regarding employment first in Nevada. And I did mention that just now, but there really isn't anything more to tell yet until after appointments are made regarding the new Office of Workforce. Whoever's in charge of that, we have some actions that we're planning to take, and some of the materials that our action plans that we had planned from the get-go are attached to the meeting minutes for this meeting. So you can feel free to read over that and reach out to me with any questions. I can take any questions if they're already now, but as for now, we're just in a holding pattern. Seeing no questions, I'll just move on to number 17, which is review and approval of revisions to the council's policy and procedure manual. I highlighted and crossed off the sections that I had changed or included that weren't there before. Hopefully that's helpful to everyone. I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve the new policy and procedure manual, 11th edition.
Evander Davis for the record, so moved.
This is Linda for the record. So moved.
So we have Evander as the first motion and Linda as a second. Is there any discussion about those additions or subtractions of our procedure manual? Sorry, Julie, I kind of took over your role there for a second. If you want to go ahead and and call for a vote. Julie, you're muted. Would you just like Wendy to take a roll call?
Sorry, Wendy, we had to go roll call, please.
This is Wendy Thornley for the record, absolutely. Evander Davis,
Aye.
Mary Evilsizer,
Aye.
Dee Dee Formaster,
Aye.
Raquel O'Neill,
Aye.
Renee Portnell,
He's doing a fun fact.
Hi, can you hear me?
yes, thank you.
I'm having difficulties.
Ace Patrick,
Aye.
Linda Voivoda,
Aye.
Julie Weissman Steinbach,
Aye.
and Peter Whittingham.
Aye.
Marcy Carey. Moving right along. Wendy, can you please get an update on training?
Yes, this is Wendy Thornley for the record. I sent in the meeting materials and posted on the website 2 documents that pertain to the training for the SILC memberships. One is called the SILC membership training materials. And the second one is called the individual training plan. They're separate things. The first document that was included in the materials is information about the training. Some of the trainings are required, some of them are optional, and they're for new and interested members. However, we would like anyone who has not read them in the last year or so to please review them. We do have a mentorship program going on where new members will be mentored by members who are already in place. We are working on that to get the details completed. In the materials for the trainings, there will be a training guide, Nevada SILC training guide. There will be a SILC guidebook. There's a SILC presentation about who the Nevada SILC is and what they do. There is a fact sheet about the SILC. There is the IL versus medical model. There is the individual training plan. The Rehab Act as amended in 2015. Currently, there is the SILC Policies 10th edition. This will be replaced after the meeting with the freshly approved 11th edition after this meeting. The Independent Living Principles, the SILC Indicators, DSE and SILC Roles Part 2 presentation, the MSG Roberts Rules cheat sheet, the full Roberts Rules, an open meeting law manual, and then there are independent living research and utilization, which is also known as ILRU, they have some wonderful on-demand trainings as well. These are all contained on the website, the SILC website, as well as in these materials. You'll be tracking your progress with a mentor. And like I said before, if you have read these, but it's been over a year, we would request that you read them again, because Dawn has been diligently updating and renewing different documents. So what you read about a year ago might have changed since then. Moving on to the second document that we sent out is called the Individual Training Plan. This is something for you as a member, all members, that you will look at it. There are training topics and events. And the assumption is that you will please mark 3 training goals for the fiscal year. You will, some of these are trainings, some of these are events such as conferences. And you will keep track of what it is you chose, and you will contact me, Wendy Thornley, with the progress. And when you've completed your 3 goals, there's a document. This document is one that you would sign and I would sign, and then after that, the chairperson or executive director would sign. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but also if you have not had a chance to read these materials, since we did have a large number of materials, feel free to read them, and then you can email me with more questions and I can share those with Dawn. I am working on a frequently asked questions document for trainings. That's not ready yet, but I will definitely be getting that out soon. Are there any questions?
Wendy, you did an amazing job putting this together. Thank you so much for taking the lead on this.
This is Wendy Thornley. You're very welcome. I leaned heavily on the work that Dawn has already done, and I really appreciate what she put forward and what she put together ahead of this, because she began this training program. So
Dawn.
Thank you. Ditto what Julie said. I appreciate all the effort that you put into this, Wendy. As you all may know, Wendy is taking on more responsibilities for the SILC as far as training and community outreach goes. So really appreciate your efforts. I know it's much needed to have all of our training plans and our mentorship goals all a little bit more organized. So it does help quite a bit, and hopefully it'll get us on track, because we were finding some issues with our mentorship program. Since it's more individualized, we were finding that certain people were mentoring more than others, and I think it's going to be helpful for everyone to have the opportunity to become a mentor. Even if you don't feel like you know enough, you learn that way when you train. So it's helpful, and I think that everyone here is capable.
Linda?
Okay, so do we get to choose our mentor?
This is Wendy Thornley. Dawn, do you have feedback on that at this point?
So I think Wendy's going to button that up a little bit and get back to us, because it's really just the beginning of the process that she started here. But those kinds of questions are really good to ask right now, because that will help her when she's finalizing this design in this organization. So I can't necessarily answer that, but I can say that we're going to do our best to make sure that people are paired up with people that are appropriately paired up, and not just with someone that they clash with necessarily, if that makes sense.
Yes. Any other questions for Wendy? Wendy's very accessible, so please feel free to reach out to her by email.
Great, thank you. This is Wendy Thornley for the record. Thank you so much.
we're moving right along here. Number 19 is Dawn.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons. Number 19 is the Nevada SILC budget and current and future spill planning and progress review and make possible recommendations. So as far as the budget goes, I didn't submit anything because we were so on track. We don't even have to worry about it because we're still spending down our fiscal year 21 no cost extension additional funding that we didn't expect to have, that we will have through the end of December this year. So we're utilizing that as much as possible with travel to conferences or events. And that's going to allow Cody to come to the Star Fair in Las Vegas and a bunch of other stuff that it's really helpful. So I will give the budget for this fiscal year at the next meeting, at our annual meeting, so that you'll have that on hand. But right now it looks pretty blank. So I want to move to the next topic in this agenda item, which is the state plan for independent living. And as you know, the Administration for Community Living, or ACL, has requested or has required us to extend our current spill for another year. So I've submitted that documentation into our materials with our changes that are going we want to do a technical amendment so we don't have to go through the whole process of creating 2 spills 2 years in a row, basically. So in order to do that, the advice we've been given from our program officer at ACL is that we can't deviate more than 10% from each of our budgets sections. So that's what I did. I tried to stay within those parameters. I was able to remove the state administrative fee of the 5% of our grant from our resource budget, which helped a lot because with the governor's new increases to our salaries and bonuses and that kinds of stuff for state employees, it did have to change quite a bit up in the salary portion. So anyway, that's just an explanation, a little bit of the things that were included in that. But I can take any questions or comments if you have them right now. And Julie, if it's okay with you, I would like to open this up to the public as well if they have any questions or comments, since it is our state plan.
Yes. I had a question related to yesterday's discussion about fundraising. Since we're not a 501c3 yet, how are we on if we fundraise? Is it tax deductible? How does that work?
So this is Dawn Lyons for the record. That's a good question. So since we're not a 501c3 or nonprofit right now, separate from the state, if we utilized a budget line item through the state that we used state vendors for, and we paid for state services through those vendors, we don't pay taxes. But if we go through our third-party fiscal agent, it would be a reimbursable item, and it's only allowable for us to purchase things that are federally and state allowable. So we wouldn't be able to purchase food unless it was a conference type of thing, But for instance, if we wanted to pay for a room that we could hold an event in, I could pay for it personally and then request reimbursement through our third-party payer.
My question was more from the donor standpoint. If we ask for donations, let's say I give a donation to SILC since we're not a 501c3, would I get a tax deduction? That's my question.
Gotcha. This is Dawn Lyons for the record. I can partially answer that. And then I believe Cheyenne is here. She could help me potentially. So,
And then there's next.
So if you were to provide a donation to SILC, I believe that the state does have a revenue account that we could actually post donations into. And anything that goes through the state is non-taxable. So I that's where I'm not sure if they would be sent a tax deductible document for tax purposes. And if Cheyenne could jump in here and help me out with that one, I would appreciate it.
Sure. This is Cheyenne for the record. And this question came up a while ago. And I did do some research into it. I'll have to dig through my emails, but I want to say that it was determined that because we're not a 501c3, there's not a tax donation, but let me search my emails because I have that information in my emails. I know I researched this a while ago. In terms of donating directly to the SILC, we would have to work with our fiscal department to do what is called a work program to add the revenue. We call it a GL number. I don't know what GL stands for, but to add that to the SILC budget so that there would be a place for the donations to live.
General ledger.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shay.
But I will search for that email and I'll send that information to you, Dawn, because I remember having this conversation a while ago. I don't know that it was for the SILC. I think it was for a different council, but I will find that out and we'll clarify if my brain is not remembering correctly.
Thank you so much, Cheyenne.
You're welcome.
Mary.
Thank you, Julie. Julie, I did want to mention this only because yesterday the SILC discussed actively pursuing fundraising. And the SILC is getting partially Title VII Part B funding from the Administration for Community Living. As Centers for Independent Living and Compliance, we get Title VII Part C funding. And then with the Part C funding, we are not allowed to fundraise. We are allowed to allocate resources towards program development. And I don't know if those accounting regulations have changed, because I do know that for the spill, they say resource development. So I just think it would be best if the SILC could check with their program manager just to determine how is the allocation of funds for fundraising managed with Title VII Part B. Is it an allowable expense? On the one hand, they're telling you to do it. On the other hand, when you get to the general accounting standards that regulates the funding, they say it's not an allowable cost. So I'm only saying this so that the SILC doesn't go through what the centers have gone. We have to be very careful in noting that we're not fundraising, but we're doing program expansion. So good luck with that. I hope it works good.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. This is Dawn Lyons, and I appreciate that advice, and I'll take it. I also know that we can fund educational events, and we can, but I will make sure that if we happen to fundraise at the same time, that's not disallowable. So I appreciate that advice, but yeah, there are things that are allowable, we can use with our third-party payer as well. I just have to be reimbursed for anything. So, or any of us can be reimbursed for it.
Any more discussion about this? See now here's number 21. We have to come up with another recommendation for our next.
Julie, not to cut you off, but this is Dawn Lyons. But I'm looking for a motion to approve the changes for
sorry.
For our spill extension.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Evander Davis for the record, so moved.
Second, who's gonna second?
Mary Will Sizer for the record, second.
Any more discussion? Wendy, we take another roll call vote, please.
This is Wendy Thornley, absolutely. Evander Davis,
Aye.
Mary Evilsizer,
Aye.
Dee Dee Formaster,
Aye.
Raquel O'Neill, Renee Portnell,
Aye.
Ace Patrick,
Aye.
Linda Voivoda,
Aye.
Julie Weissman Steinbach,
Aye.
and Peter Whittingham.
Aye.
Motion passes. Sorry, Dawn. Now we can move on to 20, which is a discussion of ideas for the next article for the public news series. I have two ideas, and I'm going to suggest that we make a list and then we'll just brainstorm. Yesterday I spoke about the fact that the survey for the State Planning Committee shows that there's a lack of understanding of it, what the Onstead Act does and when it means. So I'd like to suggest that as an article. And then another idea I had was something about transition and the struggles people face both transitioning from school to adulthood or transitioning from care facility to independent living. Those are my two ideas. Dawn.
Thank you, Julie. This is Dawn Lyons. And I was just like, yes, Olmsted, we need to educate. Yes, Julie, good idea.
Yes.
And as far as the transition idea goes, I was even thinking that we could highlight the Youth Action Council within an article about transition to just give them more attention and bring more focus on the recruitment as well.
I love that idea.
And then the other idea that I came up with, because we had a robust discussion at the DD Council's Executive Committee meeting this morning about ableism. I'd like to do an article on just how often ableism comes into the lives of people with disabilities and how little people recognize when they're exhibiting ableist behaviors and what that means to us. I think that's something that we don't talk about often enough, and it just happens so often.
I like that too. Dee Dee?
You know, surprisingly enough, when I called the people in Pioche and I reached out to them about people coming to talk to them about Olmsted, or rather Olmsted, what happened is they had no idea what it was. And so I told Sandy, I said, I'm having trouble because people have no idea what this is. And I said, I need something simple, something quick to educate people. And so we came up with this. Sandy found this thing on the internet, which is really very cool. It is like a cartoon that very simply explains Olmsted. And it went over really well, and people had a better understanding when I sent that along with the request to attend the meetings. I think that, I'll be happy to send it to you, Dawn, and Julie, you can take a look at it, but it's simple, to the point, and that's really what I think we need to utilize to help educate people a little bit about the situation. So thank you.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Dawn, did you have your hand up?
Well, I did. This is Dawn Lyons. Dee Dee, if Dee Dee sends that to me, that's really what I was going to get at. But I could post something potentially if it's animated on our YouTube channel. If it's not animated, just the picture alone, the cartoon, I could post it on our web feed or news feed on our website. There's a lot I could do with that. And we couldn't possibly, if we do our own news article on our website, we couldn't have public news service use that as a supplemental portion of their story that they do on it potentially. So I appreciate that, Dee Dee.
Any other Mary?
Thank you, Julie. For the record, this is Mary Evilsizer. I think the posting of what Olmsted is would really help our community. We noticed at SNCIL when we were encouraging consumers to attend the focus meetings that we had to go back and remind them, what the law was, what it was there for, and how important their voice is. However, on the other hand, Julie, I really like your idea about taking a story about the challenges that individuals face from transitioning either from high school or from an institution back into the community. I think for timeliness, the Olmsted might work out best now, but I think we need to keep the transition idea in our back pocket because it's going to take time to reach out to an individual who's been transitioned to a nursing home, see if they want to tell their story, or maybe get a group of them, 5 or 6, and have a peer group and have them talk about and then maybe focus on some of the barriers that they faced, and the same with the youth. So I love that idea. Timeliness, Olmsted, but the other two ideas of transition are excellent for whenever we can get the opportunity. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Stevie, do you still have your hand up?
Sorry, Julie, I should have put my hand down, but
Okay.
I just wanted to give you that tidbit because I think it really helps people to be more educated. And this is a tough subject that is very, has a lot to it. And if you get too involved, people are like, after about so many minutes, people just are like, okay, what was that? I missed the whole thing. And so if you keep it simple, stupid, like I always say, it really works out better.
Thank you. Dawn, what do we need a motion or what's the action?
This is Dawn Lyons for the record. I don't think we necessarily need a motion or a vote, but I think we do want to gain some kind of idea if there's a consensus as to which story should go first. I think that's Olmsted, but I'd like to hear if anyone else has any other ideas for our public news service as far as stories go. And if they think that we should do Olmsted first. Would anybody like to just say, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, I think we should do this one first?
This is Ace Patrick. I think both are good, and I think Olmsted should be the first. I think that would be a good idea. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Ace.
Evander Davis for the record. I think that Olmsted should be first too. So it's a great idea. And yes, transition is great. And then I think we even spoke about maybe thinking about doing some highlighting some of our Center for Independent Livings. So let's keep that on the table too.
What about ableism? Do we think we like that idea too?
I agree with that because I am short of knowing the learning curve on that myself. So, and I'm sure I have done it, but, and being ignorant to the fact of not knowing as much is a problem when I can't explain it to others.
John.
Evander Davis for the record. I just think that all the ideas that we come up with are great ideas, and we just need to just put them in and get them in a good order and put them out there because we have a lot to put out there.
I agree, Evander. This is Linda for the record.
Yeah, this is Ace Patrick. I agree as well. And including ableism in my count of 2. So there's all 3 of them I'm in favor of.
And then Evander, sorry, this is Dawn Lyons. Evander also reminded us that we said we would do a story on the Centers for Independent Living. So I'm wondering, how does this order sound as far as how we organize this? Because I think the centers story probably needs some time to get what they'd like to present in order as well. So what if we do Olmsted first and then ableism, then transition and then CILs, or switch the last 2? What do you think?
This is War Master for the record. Sorry, Evander. I think it's imperative to let people know that CILs are out there because there really is not enough for people to know information about Centers for Independent Living that is out there. And transitioning, just like everything, really is interconnected with CILs. And Centers for Independent Living are the ones who often advocate within the transitioning process. Thank you.
Amanda.
Dee is quick with the button, let me tell you. Yeah, I think that it just depends on who can get their stories together first when we do in CILs and transition. Like she said, they're hand in hand. So even if we can get one of them ready, let's keep that open-ended with the last two and try and get them and get some stories together first and then decide which one of those we'll put out first.
And I could see a story about Onstead can actually talk about CIS and transition because it's all tied together. Mary?
Thank you, Julie. That's what I was thinking. We might be able to combine Olmsted and, the quick elevator story of Olmsted is living in the most integrated setting possible and transitioning from either a homeless setting or an institutionalized setting to the community, and then transitioning from high school into whether the individual chooses, education, employment. And then there's another option. With some individuals, they're not able to work, but choosing to live the best quality of life possible out in the community. So that might be an article that encompasses Olmsted and the CILs. And then the order, I'm pretty open, so thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Dawn.
So at first, this is Dawn Lyons. At first, I was going to ask the centers if there was a specific time frame, like October is Disability Awareness Month, something like that, where they would prefer a story about themselves. But then I started thinking with everybody talking about how these can all merge is, technically transition, the Centers for Independent Living, and the Youth Action Council can all be wrapped into a story in itself. And I think that would tell a pretty telling story about what role the centers have in transitioning people from institutions and what role the Youth Action Council might have in helping youth transition, and what transition means for the disability community in general. And so if we could maybe get something organized as far as that goes and pose that idea to Public News Service, I think we could wrap those into one, don't you?
Yeah, I just had a thought. We're getting into graduation season, so maybe this is the time to do a transition story, just in light of the fact that it's graduation season. Didi and Akira.
Yeah, I wanted to say too that I think we need to throw a housing in there because people up here in the north are dying. We've got to have something,
Didi, we just put out a story on housing today with Public News Service.
Good. We have stories about housing on all of our on our Facebook. We always have individual stories about housing on our Facebook page, but I think it's one of the things we're all suffering from nationwide. It's just not in the States. So anyway, and it's hard to transition without housing.
We could add that to the cycle. Peter?
Thanks, Julie. As I listen to the conversation and the inputs, there's so much that we can write about. I suspect we may want to look at, see which are the topics more current and more relevant to what we are experiencing today. I think for me and people who I've talked to, the Olmsted, understanding what that is important. I talk to a lot of people, they don't know what that is. But as Julie talked about the transition piece, and I heard discussion about different areas of transition, whether it's from a home, transition from a home to back to into society, and maybe from high school to something else, whether it is a college or employment. I just think that issue is so relevant to today. And if we were to go into so many of the areas, as much as those areas may be good, we may get lost. The story may get lost, and we may not have the chance to expand and to explain as much as possible about the particular topics. So instead of merging them all, it may be good to stick to Olmsted as one article and transition as the second, because there's so many areas to transition. And I know from my own experience talking to individuals with the school system today, and Julie mentioned graduation coming up. You have a lot of kids leaving high school, and they're being forced into perhaps some vocational when they have the ability to continue in their academic education or to proceed in terms of academic goals and to pursue academic goals. But because of the system now as it stands, they are relegated to vocational training and maybe service industry, which they may not want to. So this area of transition is such an important piece that I think us coming together and putting the information out there would bring some attention to bear on the concerns that so many parents have, that because of our inability or maybe our disability, we're not given a chance to move into other areas which would maximize our potential. So I just think that that's such a critical area of focus that a well comprehensive article could do good for so many of our members.
Mary, I see you, but I'd like to give a chance for anyone who hasn't spoken yet to give their opinion.
Of course, Julie, of course.
Is there anyone else? I will be calling names. Just teasing. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken or has an opinion?
This is Linda Voda for the record. I know that we talked and touched on bullying yesterday, but I was wondering, is this the type of meeting that we can bring up, maybe bringing up a bill for people to be accountable in the schooling system for bullying?
Well,
or
we're coming up with ideas for a newsletter.
Okay.
Articles, but I think bullying would be another great topic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Could you add that to the list?
Done.
Okay, Mary.
Julie, I just wanted to mention that with school to work transitions, just a point of interest at our center, we have many youth that come to us for housing. They're able to connect with voc rehab, they're able to get employment, but then they can't get housing. So that's something else we could incorporate into the article should we choose to go in that direction. And thank you.
I like that idea. So
This is
I'd
Dee-
like to wrap this up soon. So
okay.
Dee
This-
Dee and then Dawn.
Yeah, this is Dee Dee Trusty, our former master for the record. Just want to, I agree with Mary Evilsizer. You cannot do anything in life without the stability of housing. You can't transition out of nursing homes. You can't transition out of high school into your own place. You can't use Olmsted without housing. It's like the big, huge, giant pink elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Dawn.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lines. Okay. So we just put out a housing article today from Public News Service, and it does state specifically that we don't feel, the disability community does not feel like SB 68 is going far enough. It's not enough for the disability community, and we have been speaking about our needs and feel like no one listens. And so that's what the article is about. So it covers all of that, and I don't know that it necessarily needs to be excluded from the other stories, but I don't want it to be highlighted necessarily because we've done that. So I want to say we have Olmsted as a priority, then transition because school is coming out. Then we have ableism. We have the Centers for Independent Living to highlight. And then we have the topic of bullying, which I think would be really great at the beginning of the school year to put something out about that. So what do you guys think? Does that sound like a good order?
Yes.
Yes.
That's any way to focus. Let's do it that way.
Got it.
Okay, cool. Wait. What did Bonnie write in the chat? Dawn, what did Bonnie write in the chat?
Sorry. Would I?
Bonnie wrote something.
Oh, she wrote something in the chat. Oh, she suggests, oh wait, it looks like John Rosenlund suggested, what life do you want to lead? What is your plan? And Lisa Bonney suggested, what's it like to be blind here in Nevada? Both of those are good ideas too. So maybe we should include a story on independent living and a story on what it's like to be blind.
Yes.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we only have 8 for the year, so I think we're going to have to eliminate 1.
I think we could discuss that next time. But
I think we can include a little bit about independent living and making a plan through the CILs, highlighting the CILs. So we can include that with that story.
And transition.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think when we highlight the CILs and we explain, these are their 5 core services, we can explain that independent living process and how people can make an independent living plan, right? So I think we can blend those two together, and then we actually have 8 stories completely planned for the whole year that we already paid for.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
Ace included what it's like to be deaf. I would I would like to include that, but I think we're gonna have to talk about whether we should do a story on the blind or the story on the deaf at the next meeting, because we can't do 9 stories. We only paid for 8. So we can talk about that later, but I've got the first 5 at least down, and then we can let's see, we can include a discussion on the last one at the next meeting.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the clock. And we have to have public comment. So I'd like to move on. Dawn, will you take the next?
Yeah, so this is Dawn Lyons for the record. 21 is discussion and make possible recommendations regarding upcoming conferences. And we really don't need to take any kind of a vote here. I just wanted to let people know, since we have our no cost extension through December, any conferences and events that any of our members would like to attend, please reach out, because we have money to spend down and we would like to spend that on opportunities that we don't often get to use because of our budget restrictions. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The April conference is coming up. We have, like Cody said, we have that autism event in Minden, and we have and if anybody needs travel or anything like that, or would like to attend these things, just let us know. Anything we can register for, including nickel. So if you Centers for Independent Living, I know this year is a little bit tough on your NOSAs, because we weren't able to include the additional overage that we were able to last year. But if you want, you can request that we arrange at least one of your individuals so that you don't go over your budget, and we can pay for that out of our no cost extension money, or we can reimburse that rather through our shoot, let me think about this. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Let me just put it that way. We'll figure out how we can help.
Okay. But can you do the next one?
Yeah, so this is Dawn Lyons again. Number 22 is a long name. Discussion and make recommendations regarding collaborating with the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities and the Deputy Attorney General's Office for a grant from the Office of Violence Against Women. So this is for those of you who have been around long enough. A couple years ago, we were going to collaborate with Aging and Disability Services for the same grant, and we were going to provide education to the public in as far as the statistics and data behind women with disabilities and domestic violence. And so this is the same grant, but it's for this year, and the DAG, or the Deputy Attorney General's Office, which we call the DAG, they're actually applying for this, and they asked us if we would partner with them. And so I don't have the details yet, but if they do, if they are awarded this, I just wanted to ensure that I had that the SILC is aware that they've applied for this, that we agree to participate in any community education regarding this grant and surrounding it. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was on board. So what I'm looking for is a motion to approve that if the DAG is awarded this grant, that we can partner with them.
This is Dee Dee Formaster for the record. I have a whole curriculum, and the numbers are 85% of women with disabilities are victims of domestic violence. But I have a whole curriculum on this. And so I already that I have had, and I have worked on this for years. So just want to let you know I have that curriculum. But
Would you,
I want to make a motion
okay.
that I'm going to shut up and make the motion now.
Thank you.
This is Ace Patrick. I second.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Do you think we can do a roll call? I mean, Wendy, we can do.
Yes, this is Wendy Thornley for the record. Evander Davis,
Aye.
Mary Evilsizer,
Aye.
Dee Dee Formaster,
Aye.
Raquel O'Neill, Renee Portnell, Ace Patrick,
Aye.
Linda Voivoda,
Aye.
Julie Weissman Steinbach,
Aye.
and Peter Whittingham. Peter, you are muted.
Peter Whittingham says aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Is there any public comment?
Excuse me, Julie, this is Saber McWhorter Clark. I just didn't hear my name the last two motions, so just want to make sure I didn't drop off somewhere.
This is Wendy Thornley for the record. I am sorry, Sabra. I did not realize you were in the meeting.
That is quite okay, thank you. And I, by the way, on both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saber. Motion carries. Any public comment? Dawn?
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons. I just wanted to let everyone know after discussions with Michelle Merrill at Vocational Rehabilitation, she has agreed to provide a training for SILC and any of the public who's interested, and SILC is going to host that training as we discussed in previous meetings and agreed to. For May 1st at 10 a.m. Shouldn't take longer than an hour, probably not even that, but we're going to block off an hour for this training and record it and post it on our website. She's going to train everybody on all the new features on their website because it is drastically different now than it used to be. So I'm excited about that training and I wanted to share that information.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I don't know if this is appropriate, but it's chair. I'm gonna go for it anyway. I'm excited to announce that one of my essays has been accepted for publication on a website called New Face Press. When I get the link, I'll send it to Dawn. But the title is Lessons in Belonging. And it deals with ableism and my own personal experience.
This is Dawn Lyons. I just want to interject because it looks like Cart didn't catch what you called it. The title is Lessons in Belonging.
Thank you, Dawn. And I'd like to congratulate Dee Dee for winning a free registration to the April conference at the SILC Congress.
Yes, that's true. I did win an April conference registration.
Ace.
Hi, this is Ace Patrick for the record. I just want to say again to Cody that I know you're still going to be here for a little bit longer, but thank you so much for your service with work, with the Youth Action Council. Sure have, the work that you've done and that I've heard that you've been doing has just been outstanding. So thank you again for hanging in with the SILC as long as you have with, and I just want to say good meeting, y'all. So lots to think about. So thank you very much.
Any other public comment? It is 3:56. We did it, people. Yay!
Yay!
With that, I'd like to call this meeting adjourned.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, you too.
Bye, y'all.